Okay, I damn near lumped this one into the best games in the history of Everfile, like I did with Arena, but because this game is still fairly recent in my old man's mind, I turned 30 a few months back after all, and I was an adult when I first played it, I just barely decided to put it in my in retrospect file instead. But trust me when I say what I've said to my friends for years. This game is an often overlooked classic, period. Arx Fatalis snuck onto the scene back in 2002 with next to no hype surrounding it. Being an old school PC RPG fan, and having read on developer Arcane Studios' website that the game was an homage or throwback to Origin's classic Ultima Underworld games, I went ahead and bit the bullet despite being a nearly broke college student at the time, and nabbed a brand new copy just weeks after it went to the shelf. And never in the history of ever have I been so pleasantly surprised by such an impulse buy. Point of fact, this is the reason I decided to keep an open eye for Arcane's next game, the deeply flawed but still enjoyable Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, and the reason I'm still profoundly curious what the team is up to. I'll forgive them for being even slightly involved in the making of BioShock 2, one of the single most disappointing sequels in the history of gaming if you ask me, but that's beside the point. Back to Arx. The setting was identical to that of the aforementioned Underworld, in that it took place entirely below ground, and involved races such as humans, goblins, dwarves, and trolls who once lived in relative harmony, now being upset by a stirring evil force. As for the plot, you took on the role of Shigar, a man with no memory of his past who wakes up imprisoned by goblins and escapes his cell to learn his true identity, which happens way too soon. The game's best, if not great plot twist, like a teenage virgin on prom night, comes way too early. The end result was basically your typical fantasy stuff about a nefarious villain who must be killed so that order can be restored to the world of Arx. It wasn't all that special, but the game's immersive setting more than made up for it. It was the ambience of that setting that made the game, point of fact. The dark, eerie caverns and dungeons just begged you to explore them. Similar to its godfather, Ultima Underworld, you never got a chance to go topside, but the game's environments nonetheless always managed to offer something new. From ice-encrusted caves to dank tombs to subterranean cities, the locales never got old, and they all combined to create the illusion of a fully realized world. It's one of those rare games that gives you the feeling of actually having visited its setting. And not a particularly safe one at that. The monsters and enemies arrayed against you were diverse and interesting, sometimes even scary. Boss Beast, modeled after J.R.R. Tolkien's Balrog, was virtually unkillable, and provided me with one of my all-time crap-my-pants moments in the history of gaming. First-person combat was your typical hack-and-slash, but well executed, while magic was especially interesting, utilizing a rune and gesture system that meant you were drawing shapes in the air with your mouse to cast spells, which was and is a cool touch that sadly couldn't be ported over to the Xbox version of the game. The game's only flaws that I can even recall were minor, such as its annoying habit to force you into backtracking, and the occasional moment where you didn't know what in the hell you were supposed to be doing or where you were meant to be going. The most memorable ball drop was an experience I had where limited inventory space made me drop several crucial quest items without so much as a warning from the game to tell me it was a bad idea. But how would I know? It's not like the game told me in advance I'd need these baubles to access the final dungeon. Fortunately for me, I'm a frequent saver in several different save slots, so when the realization dawned that I'd carelessly thrown away crucial items, I just loaded up an earlier save and played the 2 or so hours I'd missed. Trust me, that day I was not a happy fucking camper, but the game was so good, I had to keep on playing, despite my frustration. I mean, hell, stupid mistake on my part maybe, but the game should have either warned my ass not to drop that shit, or just not even let me drop it, period. The rest of my memories of playing through Arx Fatalis, though, are pure fucking gold, and I'd recommend this game to anyone who missed it back in the day, especially if you love Ultima Underworld as much as I do. It's basically the next best thing. Hell, even the box art for Arx on the Xbox is identical to that of Ultima Underworld's. These games are companion pieces, and thank God for Arcane Studios. It's just too bad they never got around to that sequel their website once promised. Bastards.